What's up, party people? It's Invisible Walls, episode 118, right here on GameTrailers.com. We are fresh off the Comic-Con run, and oh, what a run it was. Pretty good show, I think, as far as video games are concerned. We're going to talk about that a good bit on the show today. And here to do that is Ryan Stevens.
Hello.
Patrick Morales.
Excelsior.
Justin Spear.
Yo.
And Brooks Huber.
What it is.
And I'm your humble host, Shane Satterfield. Let's get on it.
Let's go.
Comic-Con.
Business or pleasure?
Both.
Business. Business in the front, party in the back. Just
Even
like
if you try to have fun,
just like a mullet.
such a tiresome event.
Yeah.
It is a grind. Now, I actually did not get the chance to cover games at the show. I was working with Spike.com, grinding along. So you guys are definitely going to have to carry this conversation a bit. Obviously, the big announcement, what is it, Street Fighter X Tekken?
Yes, I believe they want to refer to it as Street Fighter Cross Tekken, not versus. Cross.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
What's the cross mean?
Well, they had that.
It's a Japanese thing.
Basically means versus.
They had
it's the same.
what was it? They had Capcom X Namco
Yeah.
back in like 2005, which was a strategy
basically
game only in
the same as
Japan. So I guess
Versus,
it's
but
like because they consider all the Versus games to be their own series, which is a little silly. But
Why
I guess
didn't they call it Versus instead of
I guess
X
it's not
or
part of
Cross?
It's not the Tatsunoko engine.
Yeah, I
this
guess
time around.
I guess you could say the Versus series has a certain play style to it. You know, you have like the super jumps, the tag teams, and like the super moves. You see a little bit of that here with Street Fighter Cross Tekken, but I guess they want to, brand it as something else entirely.
I found it interesting that Namco knows where its bread's going to be buttered, because the trailer for that was in the style of the Street Fighter 4 trailers and art versus what you would get from like a Tekken trailer.
But is
Yeah,
Namco
that's-
still producing a?
Well, they're doing two games.
Yeah, they're
actually.
doing two games, and the Capcom one is coming first. I guess that's the one that's further along, but really these games aren't coming out in like 2 years. So
What's the second game then that they're...
it's going to be Tekken
X
Cross
Capcom.
Street Fighter. Yeah.
Which will not be confusing at all when you send your
No.
mom to go buy it for you when you have the chicken pox.
Right.
Of course not. No.
There'll be at least
Give
there'll
me
be
the
a
good
delay
one.
between the two.
So
It's
they
the
kind
same
of
thing
done
they
some
did with
crossover
SNK.
with these guys with Soul Calibur. They brought some of their characters in there from Tekken. Or actually, it was more like Star Wars guys crossing over.
And Link.
And Link.
They
Yeah.
had Hayashi. Was
Spartan 7692432-1.
Yeah.
What?
But
It didn't seem like that was overly successful. It didn't seem like that generated a lot of extra sales, but I think this is probably different, right? I think this may have a pretty big impact.
Yeah, I'd say though, if I was looking forward to a new, team up between two companies or even two franchises in this case, Street Fighter and Tekken wouldn't really be my first choice personally.
What
more
would
like
it
Mortal
be?
Kombat and DC.
Oh, I still want that to happen. Mortal Kombat and Street Fighter.
I don't know. I mean, Tekken's cool, and I certainly love Street Fighter, but just pairing them together is kind of a weird match for me, especially more so after seeing that gameplay trailer they had where they just had a match going. It seemed really, I don't know, how'd you describe it, Justin? It seemed kind of...
It's kind of like
I don't
looks like a fan project, really. A
looks
little bit. It just doesn't.
Yeah.
You're like
Some
huh,
Mugen.
Yeah,
really?
it does look like
Like
Mugen.
Mugen.
It looked very
with
Mugen.
like less fart jokes.
Yeah.
Mugen.
Well, what about Marvel vs. Capcom 3? Speaking of all these verses and stuff, did you get a chance to play as any of the new
I
characters?
heard Patrick played like
I
45
I played
matches.
a ton.
I'm
I
sure
played
you
a
did.
ton.
Could
Yeah.
pry you away from that. So who was new? Who did they unveil at Comic-Con?
Well, the 4 new characters that they unveiled were Chun-Li, Super Skrull, actually 5. Chun-Li, Super Skrull, Trish from
Really?
Devil May Cry.
Chun-Li's going to be in the game?
Yeah, big surprise,
Wow.
right? Amaterasu
This time
from
she's an
Okami
amputee.
and Thor.
What did I hear? Doctor? No.
And Doctor Doom.
Oh,
six.
yeah,
Okay,
Doom.
yeah. So
6, yeah.
What was your favorite character to play with?
No doubt Super Skrull, the new Marvel character. It's
'Cause
actually
he's super cheap, right?
he's super cheap, super overpowered, just the way I like it.
Is he stance based? Like you choose one of the Fantastic Four you want to be, or is it everything's open to you at all times?
Everything's there from the get-go. It's actually really smart of them because you're basically with a character like Super Skrull, you're taking all of the powers of the Fantastic Four and putting them into one character.
Wow.
So kind of an economical move on Capcom's part. Yeah, the game plays really well. I know a lot of people had some trepidation because they're thinking, oh man, it looks just like TVC. I don't like Tatsunoko versus Capcom. But after playing the Comic-Con build, it's Marvel too. Yeah.
So it played differently than when it played at E3, you think?
Definitely, yeah. They're Capcom's definitely keeping their ears on the street. They're listening to the comments that fans have had.
Yeah.
It plays really well. They've made a lot of adjustments since the E3 build, and it being a year away, I can see them making even more. Just adding more content, making more of those tweaks.
What were the tweaks?
They changed the control scheme a little bit. Before, they had this really counterproductive thing for Switch. You know how in the Marvel series you get to tag out your teammates? Before, if you were blocking and hit the assist button, you wouldn't have your assists come out like it normally would. You would tag out, which is really awkward. But they changed it to where you just have to hold the button down now.
So you can spam a little more with your helpers. Right?
Exactly. Yeah. Now it's like Marvel.
So overall, though, would you say a step in the right direction?
I'd say so. I think Marvel 3 is definitely going to be one of the best fighting games of next year, if not, the. Yeah, super fun. I definitely had a lot of fun playing it, and I can't wait to see more.
Yeah, you were kind of down on it earlier, but
I
seems
was.
Like you're totally psyched now.
I mean, admittedly, I am still a little bummed that it's in 3D. I've gotten used to the art style by now, but I think it's going to be a cool product for sure.
Speaking of fighting games, I was bummed that Mortal Kombat wasn't there because I never really had a chance
right.
to see it at E3.
But now that it doesn't have the DC license,
Yeah, it
tacked
doesn't really have
onto
a
it.
place there, really.
Well, a lot of things at
yeah.
Comic-Con, I mean, don't
They
really
can make
have
a comic
place
for
there.
that, like Dead Space. You just slap a comic on that.
Well,
that was my
Exploit
most
that,
disappointing
property.
no-show for
That's
me.
what she said.
I would have been like,
What? I don't think there is a theme to Comic-Con anymore. It's just this big mashed up melting
It's
pot
for
of-
fans.
of
It's
money.
like FanCom.
Yeah.
It's like fandom is celebrated.
Right,
Anything
con.
that has fans,
I
other
think
than,
it's like
a lot
other
of
than
TV
sports.
shows.
It's like
but,
a money con. Is
but
what
I
I think.
think I saw like some starting lineup dolls were there though. I think.
is this
so.
the last year? It's going to be in San Diego?
That's still up for debate.
Yeah.
They've said that a million times in the past. So
Right.
I don't know.
San
I don't
Diego
see it
loves
happening because right now the other convention centers they're talking about don't have big enough rooms for the panels.
Yeah.
The
Oh.
actual convention hall isn't that big at Comic-Con. It's really all about having those huge cavernous rooms for the panels and for people to go and meet and do seminars and that kind of stuff. Most of the convention centers, like in Anaheim and at the LA Convention Center, they have plenty of space, but they'd have to actually go in and sort of build walls to create those rooms.
Yeah.
So I think the chances are slim. From what I heard through the grapevine while at the show is the big problem is that all the businesses in the Gaslamp district in San Diego are not giving kickbacks back to Comic-Con. So,
So they need to be more corrupt.
right.
Okay.
Yeah. But generally, I mean, if you think about it, these businesses are benefiting a huge amount
Oh, yeah.
from Comic-Con. I mean, they're probably making more money in that week than they probably made the last 2 months put together. And all Comic-Con is saying is, look, man, like,
Don't be a
it's
dick
cool
about it.
that you're making more money,
But we want a taste.
right, we're the one. Yeah, exactly. We're the ones that are putting up the money to get all these people here. You need to give us some kind of a kickback. It could amount to large amounts of money.
yeah,
You could have a
everything-
really cool like cosplay protection racket scheme working there.
The people there are
weird.
really interesting, though. I mean, you say it's the fans, right? Well, on Spike, we did some segments where we actually did like comic book quizzes with the people there, and we grabbed people who were dressed like comic book characters, cosplay. You know, these maniacal fans or what? They didn't know anything. Like they couldn't get anything. They couldn't even like say, "Is this guy a good guy or a bad guy?" They missed almost every single question we gave them. I was like, "So why are you here?" You know, I think to me,
laid.
to me, Comic-Con is just turned into like a meetup. It's like there's not really that much to do there. If you're actually into games, Comic-Con's a great place to go, I think. It's probably better for games than anything else because you get to play the games before they come out. Could have played Gears. You could have played a bunch of stuff that hasn't been released yet. If you're a movie fan, you're basically walking.
Well, it's the panels.
Yeah.
Right. It's all the
Well,
panels.
panels,
But you have to be
shopping,
into.
right?
You
Tons
have to
of
be
people
into that
walk away
panel
with
thing.
hundreds of dollars
where
in
you,
merchandise.
But you know what? You see like the first 20 minutes, or people got to see the entirety of Scott Pilgrim. Right?
Yeah, they're holding.
Oh, yeah,
yeah.
they-
So
yeah.
I mean, there's
Hoffman's
definitely some see it before anyone else sort of stuff, but
Right. Yeah. I mean,
Not
they
for
had-
me, but-
right. They had some advanced screenings of Scott Pilgrim if you're lucky enough to get on the list, or you could go to a panel and get stabbed in the eye.
Nice.
So- but Comic-Con itself is basically a bunch of people dressed up, just walking in circles, looking at each other and taking pictures of each other. I mean, that's really what it amounts to. The comic section of Comic-Con is like a ghost town. There's nobody there, and in fact, we would go there oftentimes to shoot because we have room and people weren't constantly bombarding going in our shots. So
yeah.
it's kind of sad, honestly,
But-
to see what it's become.
But I mean, like you said, the game stuff's getting kind of
Yeah.
large-ish. I mean, Brooks, you went to some of the VIP stuff for Sony and Microsoft.
Yeah.
Anything cool there?
At the parties, you mean?
Yeah.
Yeah, that was really cool. They hosted it at the Hard Rock, and Sony's was first, and they let us in. And all the games they had there, they pretty much already had on the floor. But we got our hands on time. We got to play a lot with the iToy. Rich is banging things out, pretend drums. And they had Killzone 3 there. They had quite a bit, so it was pretty.
Basically
neat
same
games
build
there.
as E3 though.
Everything was the same as E3, and they admitted that to us, especially with Little Big Planet
A
2.
little easier to get some hands-on time.
Yeah,
though.
definitely like
you
less
got to
crowded.
play Gears, right?
I played a lot of Gears. Yeah,
So Beast
that was-
Mode.
Beast
was
Mode
Shane,
was
was
fantastic.
Shane telling us the truth? Is it all that and a bag of
It is all
potato
that. They
chips?
were offering up, if anybody knows, Horde mode. Beast mode is exactly the same, just roles reversed. You get to take advantage of the Locust this time. And they let you choose from about 12 different characters, which is great, including the Ticker, which I thought was fantastic.
Yeah, I love the Ticker. I
The
love
Ticker's
how you
speedy,
have
it's-
to learn the timing of detonation. So
Yeah.
when you see somebody, you hit the detonation button. That way, when you run up, you have like that 10-foot run because there's a timer before
Mm-hmm.
it actually explodes. As you get good at timing that, by the time they see you coming, they get their gun up, and as soon as you get to them, pow, you blow them up.
It's tough. And then in the cogs, the computer itself, they're really evasive. They set up barriers to keep you out. They set up these barbed wire fences to keep you out. So you really have to think strategy plays a big role.
Yeah.
You really got to work together. And I had a lot of fun. There was this new
110%.
enemy, though, that I wasn't a big fan of, which is part of the Locust, I think. And it's like this huge giant centipede.
Yeah, I didn't see that at E3.
And he's like a train when he's moving around, so he can't make tight turns and he can't make these tight maneuvers. But his attack was so weak, he'd just go up and shoot these little pink sparks of electricity. I was not feeling it. I told him right there, I was like, this guy's got to go, or you got to change him up or something. It's just not gruesome.
And I'm
it's
sure
not
they
Gears.
listened.
Yeah. But everything else, the Berserkers, the Boomers, they're a lot of fun to control.
And EA was there, but then Justin and Patrick were at EA in San Francisco like the day before. It's kind of crazy
Yeah.
how much stuff they're
Oh
trying to
yeah,
cram
I
down
remember
there.
that.
Well, they showed Dead Space 2 was a big thing for them there. You could go and play it, which I think.
Yeah, well, and they showed Dragon Age 2
Yeah,
out of the
yeah.
blue.
That's
Nice.
tucked
But like,
away.
wasn't letting anyone do coverage or anything.
It wasn't even at the con actually. It was somewhere across the street.
Same thing
Yeah.
with Dead Space.
Yeah.
You went across the street off the convention center, and it was like tucked away in an alley to your left, and they were selling like blow up like mining tools or whatever.
Yeah.
Some guy just pops on the alley. Hey kid, you want to play Dragon Age?
Yeah, that's actually what they were doing.
sure.
They were standing in the alley with the bullhorn saying, "Dead Space out." Yeah,
It was the E3 build. They just let you play it this time.
right.
So
That's cool.
Which is something.
I went to an Activision event. I was only down there for a day before it even actually started. I watched. I got to interview Stan Lee, which is always fun. He's like the cool grandfather you never had, or maybe great uncle. It would be more accurate.
Yeah.
I watched the first level of GoldenEye, and it's really kind of weird. I know we were talking about the whole nostalgia thing, like last episode. It was weird watching how like similar it was. Even like immediately, there's things that are different because you're like with a partner and stuff. But like the layout was very, very,
This
very,
is the
very,
dam,
very
right?
similar.
That's the
Yeah.
first level? Okay.
And then the part where you'd be going up in the sniper tower, you snipe some people, and then you get down there, and then it's
The
pure
sniper tower that's like 2 stories high.
Yeah. But then it's the tunnel you shoot into. Then it's pure like Call of Duty. You get down there and it's like basically a hugely scripted event where you're in a car and you're shooting out of the car. You know, your friend's driving. You're shooting people through the windows. You're doing quick time events to kick people off the car, off the truck as they're trying to invade you. So it's kind of a weird like mishmash. And you know, they're saying they can't like facility is not going to be a map for map perfect because they can't legally do that. But anything that was in the movie, they can legally re-represent.
Gotcha.
So when you had like crawling through the docks and attacking the guy in the toilet, that's back because that was in the movie. I haven't seen GoldenEye since I was like 12 or something,
Right.
but it's kind of interesting.
Oh, the facility's gone.
No, it's there. It's just they can't make it exactly
Okay, so-
because
but
you know it
it's
was
pretty
just in
much the
perfect. It
same
was in
map.
perfect dark.
Yeah,
you know, and everything.
It's a great multiplayer map.
Yeah, exactly. It's one of the best like non-symmetric maps like in the
All time,
world.
Yeah.
And then the new Bond game, they weren't saying much, but it's Bizarre Creations, and they said there's gonna be a lot of driving, not just cars, but you know those guys are known for driving games, so should be interesting.
One thing I will say is that I think I have to admit at this point that we are all wrong about Dance Central. Not because I played it and I enjoyed it, but I was at the Microsoft event at night and it was unreal.
Well,
I
it's
mean,
being
literally-
bundled with the Kinect now, right?
I don't know, honestly, but
I think it is.
I've never seen anything like this. There were throngs of people playing this game, and it only tracks 3 people, so the other 15 or 18 people who were standing behind the 3 people in the front were just doing it to do it. They weren't
Backup
even a part
dancers.
of the game.
you're talking about the Microsoft event later in the evening at the party. Yeah, I was watching them.
They
And
wouldn't stop
It was all night.
all night.
It was mesmerizing.
You think they were like hired by Microsoft?
No. These were people that I know from the industry.
Flash
And
mob.
granted, a lot of them were girls, which, mission accomplished if you're trying to expand your audience. But it was just nonstop. People were like fighting over who the 3 people were in the front and who could actually like be recognized in the game. But it just baffled my mind that these people were not even playing the game. They're standing like 10 and 15 deep behind the 3 people who were just dancing.
Weird.
We may have to label this the Just Dance phenomena.
You're right. I mean, and Just Dance 2 was also at the show, and it got a crazy reception. It's mind-boggling to me, but I think I was standing next to Bloodworth, and I just looked at him, and I was like, I think we have to admit that we're wrong. I mean, people are eating that game up. It's crazy.
You know what's funny about Just
Naoki
Dance
strikes
2?
again.
Just Dance 2 had that set up stage little thing that you could go
Right.
up there and hang out. At one point, I told my camera guy to get some B-roll of the people on stage dancing. He's like, yeah, no problem. He takes his camera and shoulders it, and he gets up on stage, and
And
they
then
don't
he
notice
starts
he's
dancing?
there. No, and he
That'd be
gets so
awesome.
close to the action, this girl turns around with a Wii remote in her hand, and she hits him right in the nuts. And she didn't
While
miss a
he's holding
beat.
the camera.
While
Was he
he's holding the
recording?
camera. And then there's
I'm
like
gonna find that
people
clip.
all around watching this take place, and he's like this older guy. He's like... It was pretty funny.
Wait, what's
She's
his
like this
name?
15-year-old girl, and she turns around and whacks him right in the nuts, and it's just like slow motion.
Hopefully
Oh.
somebody got B-roll of him shooting that B-roll.
And at that point, I was like, I don't know that guy. He's not
Isn't
my
that dude
camera
the
guy.
hands?
He is the balls.
What's his name? I think I
Well,
shot-
let's not reveal his information.
Oh, I guess not. I think I know who you're talking about.
For
and
For
I'm-
safety's
I'm pretty
sake. But yeah,
amused.
that was a funny Just Dance 2 moment.
As the years progress, I have to wonder if they'll someday change the name of the con, because it's not so much about comics anymore, although that is still a strong part of it. But that being said, with such a strong games, movies, TV presence there, pretty much anyone with kind of any interest in those, 3 separate medias will have fun there.
I think the only thing missing right now is music, right?
Yeah.
I mean, that's really the only entertainment medium that's not there.
I think everyone should go at least once just to see what it's like. You may not enjoy it, you may, but if you do go to a Hall H presentation, wear eye protection.
Yeah.
Because I was in the same aisle when that happened.
Oh, you were there?
I was there.
So what happened?
Wait, didn't you say the guy crumpled on you? Or
I was
something?
in that aisle.
So what happened? Like, there's been all these stories about. At first, it was they argued over one thing, and then it was like the guy said that he was sitting too close to him. Like,
Uh-huh.
do you know what happened?
Yeah. Okay.
Eyewitness account.
Quick sidebar. That's probably gonna get cut by Ryan, but I'll
No, this is gold.
I'll
is the
give
story-
I'll give my testimony.
Sadly, this is the biggest story from
Yeah.
Comic-Con.
Long story short, for people that didn't hear, there was a panel in Hall H, which is the biggest panel hall on Comic-Con. And in between the Resident Evil panel and I believe
Paul, wasn't it?
Paul and Cowboys and Aliens, during the intermission, these two guys got into an argument about seating, because after each panel people leave and everyone else kind of scrunches up towards the middle just to get a better view.
Yeah.
During that instance, 2 guys were arguing, and they started getting in each other's face, mad dogging style. And just out of nowhere,
Now, how long did that go on? Like the in-the-face screaming.
the in the face was probably like 2 minutes. But
Wow.
even
Holy cow.
even during the panel though, leading up to that point, they had been like slowly like whispering to each other, kind of like getting really passive aggressive.
Wow.
But basically, they were mad dogging each other, and out of nowhere, one guy takes a pen and just goes at the other guy right for the eyes.
right for the eye.
With a
Dude,
pen.
Someone tried to take someone's vision over
Yeah.
a seat at
It's not that big a
Comic-Con.
deal.
Yeah.
Not to you. You're used to it.
As long as it's my left eye.
If it were you, you'd be screwed, dude, if you went to the wrong one.
Good thing it wasn't you.
But yeah, I was in that aisle, and the guy that actually got stabbed got knocked into me.
Really?
Yeah, I was there.
Well, I
You
saw
saw
some of the
blood,
footage
too,
of him
right?
getting like hauled out with cuffs, and like that guy had blood all over him. It looked like he got him pretty good.
Yeah, that guy was gushing.
Wow.
What's funny though is that the attacker was wearing a Harry Potter T-shirt.
Yeah, he was.
So be careful, guys.
Jeez,
never
you never
know.
know. Yeah, we could
So
try.
what happened with the aftermath? How did they break up the fight? I'd heard the
Okay.
attendees like grab the guy with the pen and beat him down. Is that true?
Okay, so the attacker was sandwiched by the victim's friend. So as soon as the friend saw that happen, he lunged at the guy and put him in a headlock. And an off-duty sheriff was nearby, so he came by
What was
and
he dressed as?
he had a Superman T-shirt on. One of us. But yeah, so we basically had to clear out all the chairs around him, make a hole. They had both the guys lay down on their chests, and it was crazy. Like, we had to wait 5 minutes for paramedics and police to come.
I'm
It's
surprised
so
another fight
crowded.
didn't start whenever they tried to refill the hole with seats.
Yeah.
Over who got those seats.
Oh, I spent like a good 5 minutes looking for a new seat because me and my 2 brothers were obviously out of seats because we were next to it.
You get any blood on you?
You know what? I fear that maybe my Dell laptop bag might have a little bit of the evidence on there.
Really?
Did you
Yeah,
get
because I
hit?
brought it to Comic-Con.
Was it the actual eyeball, or was it like where was it?
Okay, so it turns out that he merely scratched like the eyelid, or like somewhere close to the eye.
Oh, he scratched his eyelid?
Yeah, but when I was there, it looked like the pen seriously went in his eye, because every time like he wiped his face, it was just like tons of blood on his hands, and it was obvious he was in shock because he wasn't saying much.
Are we going to do a dramatic
Yeah.
reenactment of this? Or?
Yeah, what are we gonna do for a video for all this?
Yeah,
Yeah, we'll do a
That's sad,
dramatic
though.
reenactment.
That's sad, dude.
yeah, but
We'll put on
fucked
the mask, the wrestling masks.
it was pretty gnarly though, because I did not expect that at all.
Oh
Yeah.
no.
Time! Now! I told you they're breaking people! I can hear them screaming from the docks!
I can't believe they did that to Ty.
How shitty is StarCraft 2, Patrick?
They could have spent another 10 years on it.
Yeah, so first of all, we want to apologize. We were not sent StarCraft 2 in time to have this review ready for its release. Blizzard, for whatever reason, sent it out to us at the same time it sent it to retailers, so we're behind the 8 ball. It's a big game. It's a huge game, obviously, with over a decade in the making. We want to make sure we get our review right, so we are taking our time. The review may or may not be up by the time this goes live to the site. We're hoping to get it done for Friday, but we'll
Yeah.
see.
Almost
Either
done.
way, we apologize. It was kind of out of our hands, but Patrick has been playing the game for review.
Yes.
Is it worth a decade of anticipation?
Short answer, yes,
Yeah?
definitely. I mean, any RTS fan is definitely going to have a ton of fun with this. Just from the get-go, it has amazing production values. The campaign is a ton of fun to play. It's very diverse, very interesting situations that they put you in. But besides that, they've put so many more elements into it than it just being an RTS game. You've kind of got like an RPG adventure element to it. Multiplayer has this huge kind of backing from Battle.net where, you have matchmaking, you have, ranks and ladders and divisions that you fall into depending on your skill. They've just put so much attention to detail to this and doing as much as they could to elevate it from, 1998 that it's really the total package.
I'll say this much. I haven't seen a strategy game make people stop when it's being played and look and check it out. Even people that don't play a lot of games here in the office, like they'd start walking by as you were playing StarCraft 2 and they'd all stop and be like, what the hell is that?
It
Yeah.
has some gravitational pull.
It does.
Yeah.
It definitely makes an impression immediately if you have a decent machine. So
I'm fairly certain that they made a holiday in Korea just for playing StarCraft 2.
I guess my question is, since you've been kind of hyped for this for a while,
Yeah.
and you're saying it's awesome, but are you just content, or have they actually wowed you at points? Are you like, oh, or has it only got to the point where like, oh, they did this little trick and maybe I wasn't expecting it, but it was within the realms of what I was expecting from Blizzard, or have they actually went beyond?
Okay, I'll say this.
is
Playing
this a Game of the Year contender? Because on bonus round this past week, we talked about like what our Game of the Years were so far. Everyone on the panel, blah blah blah. Nobody mentioned StarCraft, and the reason I didn't mention StarCraft is because we were mentioning the games that had already been released.
Right.
Of course, a lot of the commenters didn't get that part of it, but is this a contender for Game of the Year? Is it that good?
StarCraft 2 is obviously a big deal, and I wouldn't doubt it being a contender for Game of the Year. Whether it'll win, I'm not sure, because it is still an RTS. It doesn't. I don't know. I guess for me personally, I still think Mass Effect 2 is one of my personal favorites this year. Whether that's better or worse than StarCraft 2, I don't know. I'll let you know 6 missions after I beat it. But so far I'm having a ton of fun with it. I just responding to Ryan's question, I feel really satisfied with it. Whether it's mind-blowing or not, I don't think so, because it is fundamentally still StarCraft. It doesn't deviate too far from, what they...
Do you think the last mission they're gonna like do some of those crazy mods and it'll be like a third-person shooter or something? Like,
I doubt
fooled
it.
you.
I guess a question that a lot of people have is, is this... does this justify it being a turn-only game? Because that's one of the big things that they announced last year at BlizzCon, where they were splitting apart the game.
And
into 3
$60
parts.
for a PC game.
Yeah, that's true. I think it is, personally. Before, when you look at games like StarCraft, they got away with a lot of things like, putting 3 racial campaigns in the same game, because it was pretty much just all about the missions. You wouldn't have that much more to it. Here, you have an entire game with, full-blown cutscenes. You have these super impressive cinematics. you have this really strong RPG element, which I'm told they're going to change from game to game. So what you're going to play in Wings of Liberty now is going to follow a different structure in the next 2 expansions. It feels like a very solid standalone game, and just from the time I've spent playing it, it's easily like 10 plus hours. 26 missions in all, and they all take like 30 minutes to do. So.
Is that counting the Protoss mini campaign?
And there's that, yeah. They add, I think, 5 Protoss campaigns, kind of as like a lead-in to the backstory for StarCraft 2. So you still, even though it's Terran-centric, you do get a little bit of the other races.
Do the RPG elements play out differently in that, or is it not really present in the mini campaign?
Not really. You just play through the missions, straightforward. Although, again, to clear up any confusion, even though this game is pretty much centered on one race, you will get to play the full extent of StarCraft 2 multiplayer, all races. So, I mean, multiplayer is not gimped by any regard.
Now, how accessible is it? You kind of mentioned to me yesterday that you felt like maybe the difficulty was nerfed a little bit. But how is it sort of easing you into the experience? I think a lot of people are going to see this game and they're going to be like, man, it's StarCraft 2, huge deal. I'm interested in playing it, but I think a lot of people are intimidated by real-time strategy games.
Yeah.
You watch someone play it. A lot of the people watching you play yesterday were like, holy shit, how does he keep up with everything?
Yeah.
I think a lot of people feel that way. So does the game do a good job of kind of being noob-friendly and getting people into the genre before they just sort of throw everything at you?
Right. Well, speaking personally, I went through the school of hard knocks in RTS dumb because I grew up with the original StarCraft, so I fully experienced, how to micro, macro, and all that. But for someone new to the game, I think StarCraft 2 makes it perfectly accessible for anyone to jump in. They added a casual difficulty setting just to kind of get your toes wet. But besides that, they had one of the coolest new features that they have is called the challenge modes. And what they are basically is that they give you a set of drills that you can do framed as a timed challenge. For example, it'll be like survive only by using hotkeys. They'll give you some kind of restriction like that, and that'll basically kind of enforce the fundamentals in you, like, oh, okay, I guess I better, react quickly and use this certain set of keys, or maybe I should control my groups this certain way. So they have that, and plus, if you're approaching it from a story side, actually one of the cool little things is that while you're installing this huge 12 gig game, they give you a complete summary of the story from StarCraft 1. So if you have any interest in that, they have that too.
12 gigs.
Yeah, it's a huge game. You wouldn't think it from looking at the game because, it is Blizzard style, very kind of simple geometry, but very detailed, like very fluid animation. But it's a huge game. Plus, the cutscenes that they have is all rendered in-game. They only have a small handful of pre-rendered, like super high fancy, cutscenes. But everything else is in-engine, like Mass Effect style, and it looks super good. It's pretty demanding on even the toughest rigs.
Collector's edition worth $100?
I'd say so. I mean, I'm a geek for that kind of stuff. One of the cool things they have in the collector's edition, if you can still get one, that is they give you a 2 gig flash drive with StarCraft 1 and Brood War on it.
Oh, wow.
So you can just install the original and, play that too.
I saw Rohan walking around the office. He was holding it like a baby. He looked like a proud father.
I saw that
As
too,
was I.
actually. I
As
saw him
was I.
unwrapping it. He had a big smile on his face. He got it from like Amazon or something like that. It looked like it was Christmas morning. So
Yeah, I mean, Blizzard always knows how to put together a quality product, and the collector's edition is no different.
And it runs on Macs.
It does, yeah.
no-brainer buy for fans of StarCraft, I'm guessing.
I mean,
Has there been any dissent?
I
haven't seen any.
I'd say from like the super hardcore people, maybe some people are going, "Oh no, they changed the balance. It's so casual
I
now."
can't get my actions per minute up.
But I mean, Matt Blair, one of our compression guys, he was playing it on hard last night, and he was having a tough time with it, and I have no doubt. On normal, I'd say it's probably a little easier than the original StarCraft was on normal, but this is still a very demanding game. Multiplayer will definitely put you through the ringer. If single player hasn't. And I mean, if you're a StarCraft fan, you'd be foolish not to pick it up. It's an awesome game. It's very well put together. And even beyond the single player, multiplayer is going to be there for probably the next 10 years.
Forever.
Yeah.
What about the casual player who's like heard about StarCraft? They're like, oh, this is a new one.
I'd say if you've never played an RTS, or at the very least you have like some kind of interest in it, StarCraft 2 is a great platform for kind of introducing you to the RTS. I mean, the original is basically the template for all modern RTSs now. StarCraft 2 builds upon that with tons of new features and upgrades from the original. It's definitely catered to both audiences pretty equally, and I don't think you'll be disappointed.
All right, next up is On the Hook, where we answer your burning questions about the video game industry and its related periphery. Today we have an incredible question from one of our users, and Ryan Stevens is going to read it.
This is from Res316, which I think may be a Bible reference. Do you think it would be a good or bad idea to have one universal game system as opposed to multiple? What about the idea of first-party companies making games on other systems? Do you think it would stimulate or hurt the industry?
Wow.
Hurt.
Deep.
Well, I think this is such
There's
a
a
meta
couple
question,
angles, yeah.
though. Like, the chances of this ever happening seem so slim.
We could dream.
Right. Yeah, I mean, there's the whole idea of competition on hardware, driving, egging on your competitor to make something better. But then there's the idea of the consumer having something, having something, just one box and being able to play everything.
Yeah, I mean, if this happened, would we ever have the Nintendo Wii? Would we ever have the Rumble Pack? All these things that were sort of announced or released on one specific system as a competitive advantage. How quickly does that stuff evolve when it's one universal system? On the flip side, I wish everybody who watched and listened to this show got to play games on every platform. I think it would be awesome. It would be so easy, so convenient.
Yeah. I got a buddy right now who's actually debating. He doesn't know which way to go for a current generation system. He's like, do I do 360? Do I do a PS3? And last night we were talking about exclusives and downloadable content. It's tough.
It is a tough call. It would make things a lot easier. I think it would make the internet environment for video games a lot more friendly as well.
I think it'd have to be a government-regulated thing. The government's like, there can only be one console, and it's made by the government.
I also wonder, too, if there was this sort of universal console, if video games would be as popular as they are now. I think, the whole fanboyism thing kind of feeds into sales a little bit. I think, a lot of these kids, if they have just one machine or can only afford one machine, they want to go out and they want to support their machine. So they, they'll buy the first-party games, the exclusives that come to their machine. It would be interesting to see how one machine, if it would actually end up hurting sales overall, or if it would just make people unite. And since you have so many people that are on the one Xbox Live or the one PSN, if it motivates people to spend more money and be sort of more involved.
Console wars are over, and then there would be no negative comments ever. Right?
Yeah.
That would be... Well, people would actually have to turn their comments instead of just blindly, saying I don't like something because I don't have access to it. It would actually be about the games themselves more.
And the part about first-party companies making games on other systems, that actually does happen from time to time. It's always like almost always through loopholes. There's all those like shitty little systems, like the Tiger R-Zone had like Resident Evil and Sonic on it.
Microsoft released a Banjo game on a Nintendo handheld.
Well, yeah, the Rare stuff, Saberwolf as well, because Microsoft didn't really have a handheld market, and they thought it'd be worth it.
And then look at like Bungie, they've moved on to do multi-plat, right?
Well, yeah, but they're not really first-party anymore.
Yeah. And then like
Insomniac, they were
similar situation.
They were more second party, but
I mean, anytime like any game comes out exclusively for a system from a third-party publisher, there is always that question. Do you think Ubi's regretting Splinter Cell Conviction only coming out on 360?
After
Who knows?
the sales of it, probably.
They ended up having pretty good worldwide sales though. So,
yeah.
I don't know. It's hard. I mean, it's like everything's a calculus problem, like how far can you push something to maximize your profit, and that's boring. So
well, then you also start looking at E3 and all the publicity that generates. You suddenly have one major press conference instead of three. I mean, there's so much trickle down that would sort of be the result of having one universal console. I don't know. I think overall, I think
3 is an interesting number because 3, and there's pretty equal shares at this point. Obviously, especially when you start looking at demographics, where the Wii definitely has huge casual, but when it comes to the more like core player, it's kind of more evenly
Buy more
distributed.
games, in all honesty.
Yeah. But I mean, back in the day, it was fun when it was like Super Nintendo and Genesis, you know, and they were kind of like neck and neck. I mean, yeah, maybe the Sega Master System never had anything on the NES, but I don't know. It was kind of fun with the either or. But the kind of trinary now is also kind of an interesting dynamic, just to see how things kind of roll out for each of them.
I think overall we probably would have to say it's not a good idea because it just basically eliminates competition.
Well,
Anytime
it's
there's
not
competition-
realistic either.
Right.
I mean,
well,
but,
right. Like we said when we started, you know, we can dream or whatever, but
Well, we could use some sort of inception to plant this idea into Bill Gates' mind and Iwata's and
yeah, I think you can't think of too many industries where there's a monopoly. So, and there's a reason for that because people like choice. Choice, you know, fosters innovation and creativity. I think it would be a bad idea. What do you guys say?
yeah, I'd have to agree.
I feel
mean,
bad for the folks out there who can't afford to buy multiple consoles at the same time.
Make
but
a friend that has the other console.
Friends.
That's what I did for the Genesis.
Yeah. What about you, Brooks? What do you think?
I'd just make time to do it.
Make time to do what?
Just whatever you needed to do to play multiple systems and get out there and
Steal,
find your
kill,
niche.
you know, stab a guy in the
Yeah.
eye. Whatever you
Maim.
gotta do. No, don't do that. But yeah.
mow lawns, make money.
Yeah, I think overall, if you look at the effect of having the Universal Console, which would get rid of fanboyism and ridiculous internet
Be like
arguments.
Star Trek.
Yeah, I don't think the cost benefit works out. I think ultimately, if you're stymieing the industry and creativity in the industry, internet discussions aren't worth sort of stymieing that. So, I guess we unanimously say no, not a good idea.
buy a PC.
There's your universal system.
Here we are in the mouth of hell. And we made it this far by leaning on each other.
All right, that's going to do it for episode 118. Hope everyone out there is having an incredible weekend. I know we are just getting ready for Gamescom. We just got through Comic-Con.
QuakeCon and ConCon and
Yeah, I will say one thing, the
SpaghettiCon.
industry is definitely starting to pick up. We have a ton of events coming up, publisher events, Ryan's crying his eyes out. Large-scale events of all types and shapes and in all different places. So things should be ramping up. Make sure you stay here on GameTrailers.com to check it all out. On behalf of the rest of the crew, I'm Shane Satterfield. Invisible Walls is up and out.